Good evening, good morning, good night. Whatever the case may be, it's me. It's Coach Hughes. You know, your favorite world history teacher that teaches 8th grade in the state of Alabama. And we are here on a grand adventure, a grand journey into a brand new chapter, chapter 10, section 1, the ancient Romans. And I think I've told you before I have, probably four top four time periods, I guess you could say, that I really enjoy discussing with you guys and teaching. And no particular order. I think I've named them before, but the ancient Egyptians obviously plays dear to my heart, especially the topic of the Book of the Dead there in ancient Egypt and all the wonder and imaginement that you could probably look for as far as pyramid building, temples. Oh my gosh, the architectural design of the Egyptian temples and the lavishness that they go into detail with. The ancient Greeks, the battle between Hector and Achilles. Great movie, Troy, the edited version. The edited version. I'm not recommending the normal version. There's some scenes probably not appropriate for younger children, but what a great battle in the movie there between Hector and Achilles in the motion picture Troy. So the Greeks, absolutely love to talk about the Greeks, and we're diving in today about the Romans. And if you're keeping score, that's only 3, and I said 4. Another high topic for me is the topic of the Middle Ages. So those are probably my 4 top uh, destinations, I guess you could say, when it comes to discussing ancient world history. Just a fun topic, right? Am I right? I think I'm right. So today we are diving into a brand new topic, and that is going to be the Romans. So without any further ado, let's kind of move this a little bit out of the way, and let's talk about the ancient Romans. Anytime and every time that we talk about a new subject, we have to dive into geography. And I know a lot of you, geography, oh my gosh, capitals, countries, states, I just don't want to know geography. But geography actually plays a pivotal role in the development of these civilizations, these cultures, because of where they could and could not go due to their geographical features of land that surrounds them. And if you look at the picture here, this is the what you would say the modern day country of Italy. And Italy is kind of shaped like a leg and a boot, a leg and a boot. Or for the ladies out there, maybe down near the bottom of that picture, maybe a high stiletto, maybe just a little bit, but let's go with a boot. So Italy is this boot-shaped country that you see on the screen here. And if you could go off screen to the east, then you're going to run into the peninsula of the Greek peninsula. And that's where we just came from in our studies and discussions. So in this picture here, Italy is shaped like a boot. It's a country in the Mediterranean Sea area. And if you see at the picture, at the bottom of the picture there, kind of the toe of the boot, it points toward the island of Sicily. And it's kind of like if Sicily was more oval shaped than it is, it's kind of like the boot is kind of and the legs kind of getting ready to just kick the far out of that boot. But this is Italy, so you got kind of a leg, a boot, and a roughly designed football in the island of Sicily. Circle B, this is going to be on the quiz and test. The Alps are the mountains at Italy's northern border. So if you go to the top of the picture, well, the boot is kind of cut off from the rest of the world by the Alps. And the Alps are not the tallest mountain range in the world, but they're pretty darn close, only second to the Himalayas in India. So the Alps are extremely tall, snow capped mountain range there, and it kind of cuts off Italy from the rest of the world. If you go back to Egypt, you had those four natural borders. You had the two deserts on both sides. You had the marshes and delta up front, and then you had the cataracts or the rapids to the south. It kind of put it kind of put Egypt there in a bubble. And for the most part, the boot is surrounded by water, making it a peninsula like the state of Florida. So it kind of separates Italy from the rest of the world. And then at the top, Italy is definitely isolated because of these high ranking mountains called the Alps, the second highest mountain range in all the world. Now, if you look closely at this picture, you kind of have what looks like a vein running down the boot there, or the leg of Italy, kind of there off to not necessarily the central Italy. It's more on the eastern side of the leg, the boot shape. But that is another features. It's called the Apennines, and it's a mountain range that basically runs through Italy from north to south, kind of like a vein in your leg, if you want to think about it this way. So all of these, and we're just on the first slide here, all of these are going to allow the people of Italy, soon to be called the Romans, kind of develop a little bit slowly, and they're a little bit isolated from the rest of the world, mainly and chiefly because of their geographical features there. So Italy, shaped like a boot, Sicily, a rough, and I do mean rough looking football that the toe of the boot is about to it's good, field goal, 3 points to kind of kick that. And then you've got the water that surrounds Italy, making it a peninsula, and you got the second tallest mountain range in the world, the Alps that kind of cut it off from those landlocked countries up in the north, and then you have the vein or the Apennines that run from north to south down the leg or the boot that forms Italy there. All right. So now that we got a little bit of the geography down, let's look at one of the greatest, arguably one of the greatest cities to ever develop, and that is Rome. So we're going to kind of look at the origins there. Now, the city of Rome grew from a very, very small town on the Tiber River to become arguably, and I do mean that, arguably a great power, if not the greatest power in the ancient world. Now, in any ancient civilization, cities need water. H2O, I need it. I need that water. It's high quality H2O, as Bobby Boucher in the Waterboy fame would say. So any ancient city you're going to find developing on a river. Rome is no different. It develops on the Tiber River. And the good thing about this, Rome's central location, it's kind of like if we go back a slide or two, Rome is kind of like the kneecap of this boot if you're looking at this picture again. So it's kind of a central, good location. It is away from the Apennine mountain range to be on the western side of the boot that we know as Italy. Okay. Rome's central location and good climate were factors in its success. A lot of people credit the climate of the development of Rome, the Roman Republic, and eventually the Roman Empire. If you want to think of a climate similar in today's world, that, hey, what can I relate Rome and Italy to? Think no more to the West Coast in the state of California, because California kind of, if you squint your eyes a little bit, maybe kind of looks like a elongated Italy to some degree, maybe even a backward shape to that. But the climate of California is very similar to the climate of the Italian peninsula, Italy. So if you want to think about weather-wise, if you want to think about climate-wise, look no further to the state of California. You do get rainfall there, but pretty much year-round, you're going to have, especially in Southern California, you're going to have just a remarkable climate. It's kind of 75 degrees and sunny, not necessarily all the time, but you're going to have good weather there in Southern California. That's why so many people choose to live there. Now, the warm and dry weather, as you can imagine, resulted in high crop yield. That means, like Egypt, like Mesopotamia, you're going to produce a lot of crops. Not so much as Greece. You remember Greece had that rocky, mountainous terrain. It was terrible for farming. They had to supplement. And as the population here in Italy grows, they too will have to supplement a little of their food supply. But they are right now at the beginning producing a high crop yield, which means just you have just tons of food. And when you have extra food, that allows other people to kind of take on different roles and different jobs. All right, Rome's legendary, and I do mean legendary, Rome origins. It's kind of like Wolverine origins. Not the best movie, but well, Christmas music. How about that? And by the time you're watching this, is probably after Christmas, so you can see kind of how I record these to some degrees. I sit here in my classroom a few weeks before Christmas here. All right, so let's talk about Rome's legendary origins. Think of it like an origin Marvel movie or Wolverine movie or kind of origin, how we got started kind of flick or film. So the early Romans, and there's a couple of beliefs to this. The early Romans believed that their history began with the mythical hero Aeneas. And Aeneas, he flees Troy during the Greek invasion there. During the Trojan War, he formed an alliance with a group called the Latins there as he traveled to Italy. And it's kind of interesting. If you do watch the movie Troy, preferably the edited version, at the very end, when the Greeks kind of use the Trojan horse to get into the city of Troy, uh, Paris in the movie gives this young boy the sword of Troy, and he says, "As long as this sword exists, our people have a chance." So the movie's kind of playing it that Paris gave Aeneas this sword, and Aeneas travels with a bunch of Trojan refugees, people fleeing the city of Troy, and he runs into this group of Latins in and on the Italian peninsula when he traveled to Italy. This story is, of course, told in the Aeneid, which is an epic poem written by the poet named Virgil around 20 BC, because it kind of goes into detail about him leaving Troy during the Trojan War and going all the way to the Italian peninsula, where he meets the Latins and he kind of sets up this new, if you go along with the movie, new version of Troy, but this new group of people that will eventually become the Romans. Now, after all of this, according to legend about the city of Rome, because Aeneas kind of brings the people there, but we got to have the origins of the city of Rome. According to legend, Rome was built by two twin brothers, Romulus and Remus. And the two brothers, they grow up, and the picture there, the story behind that picture, right below me, is that the brothers, the twin brothers, were kind of raves, were kind of left for dead, but they were raised by wolves, and they would grow up and they're building. They want to build a city to kind of in the same place that the wolf found them and took care of them. They're in central Italy. So they grow up, and gosh, like many brothers and sisters do, think about your siblings. You just get into these arguments and these tiffs and these fights. Romulus and Remus got into a big argument. How big? Romulus ends up killing his brother Remus and starting and founding the first city there and became the first king of Rome. Romulus did, and named Rome after himself, Romulus. Now, scholars believe Rome probably started sometime between 800 and 700 BC, roughly, give or take. No real written record as the exact start date. Now, early Rome was ruled by, well, kings. I am at the top of this social pyramid. Nobody's going to tick me off or kick me off the high horse there. Until the people kind of grew unhappy with the kings, and Romans eventually create a republic in 504, or I'm sorry, 509 BC. If that sounds familiar, think about the pledge that you say here in the United States. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands. So the United States, a lot of people get confused, is really a republic. And if you want to get nitty gritty, a constitutional republic at that. So don't lump us just being a democracy there. Circle B. In a republic, the leader is not a king or queen, but someone voted into office by citizens. If you want to think of the United States here, think of the president and the presidential elections where people vote that person into office. They voted once a year to prevent any one person from gaining too much power. It's almost like a check and balance. So you don't want a person to become too powerful and resort back to being, I am king of Rome. So you don't want that. So they made sure that there was a lot of turnover by only allowing a person to stay in office, if you would, for 1 year. Now, early Rome had its troubles. Think about trial and error processes. You kind of got to get your footing together. Which way are we going to go? How are we going to start? For one thing, Rome was usually at war with nearby countries. That did not help. If you are trying to establish something, but you're always getting in a fight, you kind of like DiNozzo on NCIS, where Gibbs kind of slaps him in the back of the head there. Okay. What are you doing? We got to get things figured out at home before we get into wars. To lead the country during war, though, the Romans elected dictators. Circle E, you need to know that term, kind of like tyrants, rulers with almost absolute power and authority. Well, you want somebody to be in charge. You don't want a lot of different opinions when you are trying to defeat an enemy. And Rome thought it was best to have one single ruler who was in charge, had absolute power and authority over everything. And I do mean everything. Now, today, circle F, a dictator, of course, is an oppressive ruler, kind of sad. In the Roman Republic, a dictator, though, was a person who served the people and ruled temporarily, keyword, temporarily there for only 6 months, unless it was during an emergency, like a war or a food shortage. So there's this saying, once you get a taste of power, once you get a taste of power, you want more. And for some, not all, but some individuals that were to come to power, have absolute power, absolute authority over the Roman people, when their 6 months came to an end and they did not want to give up their power, some of them, you could argue, would create emergencies. Oh my gosh, little Johnny, he ain't got enough food. We got to feed him. This is a crisis. Emergency. This is what they did. They created food shortages, or maybe they said, I don't like how that country is looking at me. We're going to war with them. Yeah, war. So some of these people that took power, they would extend their 6 months by creating so-called emergencies in order to obtain their power and their absolute authority over people. There are some exceptions, though. Circle G here. There was a guy named Cincinnatus, and yes, Cincinnati, Ohio, named after this Roman dictator and farmer. Cincinnatus, who served only 16 days, had 6 months. He only needed 16 days, was the best known early Roman dictator. Circle H. Cincinnatus was a farmer elected to defeat a major enemy. He resigned as dictator only after 16 days, after he came to power in a 16-day span, whooped the enemy's butt and said, I think that'll do it, resigned, and went back to farming. Did not care about, I am the absolute ruler, no food, emergency. All right, didn't care anything about this. This was how it was supposed to work for everybody, the way Cincinnatus did it. He did his job, defeated an enemy. Think about that. Defeated an enemy in 16 days and then stepped back to being a farmer. Hard work when he had the life of a dictator for those 16 days. Unbelievable. This is what Rome had hoped for when it kind of put into this play. Did not get this every single time. And arguably, Cincinnatus probably the quickest of the Roman dictators in this. All right. Some essay questions to think about for chapter 10. Briefly describe each Punic War. We'll talk about the Punic Wars in chapter 10 a little bit later. I believe it is section 3 that we'll jump into that, and describe the 3 crises that Rome faced during the Punic War and how they shaped the future of the Roman Republic. All things that we will probably discuss in section 3 when we get to section 3. So that will conclude today's video lecture. I hope you learned something in geographical terms about the Italian Peninsula, or the early, and I do mean early, Roman Republic and the founding of the city of Rome. Until I see you again, as always, stay blessed and roll Tide!